Sky News has revealed that a tip-off from Israeli intelligence assisted ASIO during its investigation unravelling the Iran terror attacks here in Australia. Joining us now is former Labor MP and former Chair of Foreign Affairs and Defence Committee Michael Danby. Michael, thank you for your time. Look, ASIO reached the conclusion that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps was involved independently of Israel, but this is not the first time that Israel has helped Australia investigate attacks.
No, that's true. There was an airline that had people smuggle stuff onto it that the Israelis were onto and tipped off. I think it was an Etihad flight from Sydney and saved several hundred people from being blown up mid-air. But what's good about this is to see that there is still cooperation between the two intelligence services, despite the difficult relations between the country. And bloody well it should be too, from both sides, because we don't want to place citizens at risk because of political differences, important political differences, but safety of citizens in Israel and Australia is more important.
Absolutely. Look, Labor ignored calls to list Iran's Revolutionary Guard as a terrorist organisation for years, despite warnings from a Senate inquiry and evidence that the IRGC orchestrated assassinations, kidnappings and terror plots abroad. The Albanese government has been accused of leaving Australians vulnerable by failing to act sooner in declaring the IRGC as a terrorist organisation. Do you agree with this, that the government left it too late?
Senator Claire Chandler is owed great credit for pursuing this very vociferously in the Senate. And look, Wong and Albo, etc., have woken up late to this Iranian threat. That's obvious. Probably there's a lot of disbelief at the top levels of Australia that Iran has the bandwidth, as Greg Sheridan said, to attack Australia at a time when there's not enough water in Tehran, where there's no electricity, where they've had their entire nuclear program destroyed by the Israeli-American attack. So there's no excuse for people who've got good advice not acting earlier, but they should have. Hopefully we've got them in time. But I tell you one thing, I've noticed that Albo watched that film Argo about the American diplomats being saved via a very unusual scheme. He should be watching Fauda too, because it shows that poor old Mr. Abbas wouldn't last an hour there on the West Bank if it wasn't for the Israeli Secret Service keeping him alive. But we won't be having an embassy back there for a long time, Gabrielle. Any Australian who's in Tehran, I would say get out, listen to the government. It's very dangerous. They're very nasty people, as Kylie Moore-Gilbert, the Australian academic who was imprisoned in Irvine prison, can tell you. Very nasty.
Can you take us through the direct role that the IRGC plays in Iran?
The IRGC performs the role in Iran that the SS provided in Germany. It's a parallel organisation to the state. It has its own army. It has its own intelligence service. It has its own sources of income. And it has its own street thugs, like the Nazis used to have the SR, the Sturmabteilung. The IRGC has the Basij, and they go and beat up women and beat up protesters whenever there's a demonstration against the Ayatollah. So it's a sinister parallel state that has all the best arms, it has the most money, and it's the most fanatical, just like the SS was for the regime. Very scary people. And they are the ones who interrogated poor Kylie Moore-Gilbert in the prison when she was incarcerated there unjustly for so many years. And they asked her about sites here in Australia. My goodness, they were obviously onto attacking Australia way back then.
Well, ASIO is right now investigating whether an attack on the former home of Jewish leader Alex Rubinstein was ordered by Iran. And how chilling is it that Tehran is believed to be behind many anti-Semitic crimes here in Australia?
Well, I think, Gabrielle, you're right on the ball there. It's not just the two that have already been revealed. The full story of this is yet to come out. But what's amazing is that this regime that as I said, doesn't have enough water in Tehran because they spend so much money on foreign terrorists, Hezbollah, Houthis, Hamas, has enough time or headspace to attack targets all over Australia. It's scary. This is an attack on Australia. We're very lucky that people weren't killed. This is a very serious attack on our sovereignty.
Yeah, well said. Look, looking at the situation in the Middle East, Donald Trump has presided over a policy meeting on the war in Gaza. Michael, I want to get your thoughts on where we're at the moment and what the solution is. As we know, Australia seems to want to recognise the state of Palestine, but we also know that Hamas would win an election if an election was held. What is the solution? Obviously, a hugely difficult question to answer, but what Israel's solution is at the moment?
Well, there's 3 points I'd make in response to that. As I said before, poor old Mr. Abbas, who Penny Wong and Albo, who've done the right thing on this Iran thing. I must give them acknowledgement for that.
Sure.
Don't seem to understand is Hamas would win an election. Abbas wouldn't survive an hour if it wasn't for protection of the Israeli Internal Security Service. So we'd have to really worry about that. You hold an election, a Hamas or a Hamas proxy would be elected. The most important thing for Western democracies, even if they want to have an election in the West Bank and Gaza so we can get a regime that the Israelis could deal with, is we have the same problem we had in Germany after their defeat in the Second World War. The population has to be denazified. They have this fanatical education that teaches them hatred, not just of Israel, but of Jews. The prima donna of the Palestinian movement on the West Bank, Ahlam Tamimi, has just come out on social media and said that it's not Zionists, it's Jews who are their enemy and they all must be destroyed. Now, how do you deal with a population that's so fanaticised? I blame UNRWA a lot for this.
Yeah.
Hillel Neuer has demonstrated time and time again that the education they give these poor Palestinian kids just fanaticises them, robs them of a future. And, if the Australian Education Union wants to do better things than march across the bridge in Sydney, why don't they get out their textbooks and teach diversity, equity and inclusion to Palestinians on the West Bank and Gaza?
That's a thought, isn't it? Look, Michael Danby, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.